First of all, Jerry Jones should not have a radio show because he stirs up more controversy than he should within an organization. Should lock him in a club.
Radio show. Nope. He's fine. He can.
Yeah, he's great for your content.
He's for you guys. Yeah.
Don't tell Todd that.
You should lock him in an office and take away all of his technology until after the season is over.
All right, look who we have. We did a little audible, and we got him up right now. And
there you go.
Is Todd Archer, ESPN NFL Nation reporter, covers the Cowboys and has been since 1997. You can follow him on Twitter at Todd Archer. Todd, thanks for moving things around, man. We appreciate you hopping on.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for switching around. Blame Coach McCarthy. They moved practice back on.
See, we didn't need another reason to blame anybody on the Cowboys, Todd. No. So, Todd, give us a little insight here, because I was saying to Derek a little bit earlier, I think he and I have both watched 3-4 of the Cowboys games. It's tough when they conflict directly with the Eagles. So we have somewhat of a handle of what they are, but they are off to that 4-1 start after dropping the opener. We know Cooper Rush has been the quarterback for those 4 games, but give us a little insight on just what your thoughts are on this team through the quarter, Paul.
It's a surprise, especially not having Dak Prescott. Now, the 4-1 is a surprise. Cooper Rush being 4-0, but a lot of people saw this coming with the Cowboys defense. Maybe not one touchdown allowed per game, but this was going to be a defensive first team, even if Dak were healthy. Because remember, they got rid of Amari Cooper. They lost Cedric Wilson. They didn't really do much to replace either one of those guys in free agency or the draft. So, this was going to be a far different offense than what everybody remembers the Cowboys for the last decade plus. That's how that team had been built. This one's going to be built in a defense, and right now it's just been lights out in how they're playing. And it's Tom Brady, it's Joe Burrow, it's Matthew Stafford. It's not like they're playing the poorest quarterbacks in the league. They've done some really good job against some of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Talk about this evolution of Cooper Rush. I find fascinating. He's undrafted. Cowboys sign him. They cut him. He comes back. He's an afterthought. All of a sudden, you get to know who he is last year when he goes into Minnesota and beats that team, throws for over 300 yards, which was a good defensive team. And now we're sitting here, he's 4-0, and he's become one of the talks of the league. How did this guy evolve to what he is?
The Cowboys can't take any credit for it because they've cut him twice. So, this is really luck in some respects. And look, you go back to when they got rid of him in 2020, they signed Andy Dalton. They drafted a guy, so there wasn't room for him. So that's why they released him. He came back after Andy Dalton gets hurt and Dak gets hurt. And Garrett Gilbert is their starting quarterback for a game. Gilbert goes into the 21 season as the presumed number 2. And when Dak's out all training camp with a shoulder deal, Gilbert gets all the number 1 reps. It's not until the last preseason game where Cooper Rush wins the job. This summer, there's talk about, Will Greer, the Cowboys kind of want him to be the number 2 guy. He gets hurt, suffers a groin injury, doesn't play much in the preseason. Cooper Rush keeps the job, and now he comes out here, and the biggest thing is he's just not making mistakes. Mike McCarthy didn't want to call him a game manager because they are running their offense. They are doing things that they would do with Dak. But, okay, he's not what's between a game manager and a leader? If you don't want to call him that. But he's not making mistakes. He's not had an interception since, I think, the second quarter of the Minnesota game, his first start last Halloween. And, guys trust him. Guys believe in him. He's not going to hurt you. And when you have a backup quarterback that's not going to hurt you, you can win some games, especially when you have a defense playing as well as it's playing. And the running game is really been quite well as well with Zeke and Tony Pollard and that offensive line.
Jeez. That's what I was going to ask you, Todd. I'll hop on the defense in a second, but just to stay with the offense for a minute, nothing's really going to blow you away. Some of it is because Zeke and Pollard are kind of splitting as far as their numbers.
Right.
We know CeeDee Lamb can be explosive, but we've also seen some drops. Noah Brown coming on, and like you said, Cooper Rush. The main number is he hasn't thrown an interception, but the numbers offensively are kind of like, Is this a team that is just so driven by their defense? Is the offense, in your opinion, capable in a tight game of coming up big for them?
Yeah, I guess the answer is I don't know, because Cooper Rush has started 5 games and they've scored more than 24 points once. Right? They scored 25. And that's why when people talk about, could Cooper Rush do to Dak what Dak did to Romo in 2016? Well, when they won those 11 straight games, Dak's rookie year.
Todd, I think we got you back, man. We can bring him up.
That's the best answer I ever had, too.
We lost you for 1 second. You did the comp where when Dak came in, he was kind of lighting it up, and that's not so much what Cooper Rush is doing.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys were scoring a ton of points, running the ball well, throwing the ball well. They scored more than 24 more points in 10 of the 11 wins that they had to start the year with Dak. So this isn't that. This is about their defense. I mean, it's 1 touchdown in every game. And then the last 2 games against Washington and the Rams, those teams started possessions at the Cowboys 30 and the Cowboys 29 and didn't get any points on either one of those drives.
Jeez.
So this is a defense that hasn't been around since I've been covering this team since 2003.
Hey, Todd, I was going through some of your writings on ESPN.com, and one thing that really jumped out at me was when you said this Cowboys team is doing things defensively that we haven't seen since 1972. Can you expound on that, please?
Yeah, doomsday, right? The doomsday defense is back in the day for everybody there. But yeah, they've not allowed more than 19 points in a game. The last time that has happened in the first 5 games of the season, 1972. Gosh, I wish I had the media guide. I'm going to screw it. I think Bob Lilly might still have been around. Leroy Jordan and all these guys that have built the Cowboys history were part of those defenses that part of that first Super Bowl run after they couldn't get over the hump. I'm trying to think of what would have been the best defense that has been around here since I covered this team. 2003, Parcells' first year. I think they finished number 1 in the league that year, but I don't think anybody would look at the Cowboys defense and said, or maybe it was number 1 against a run and said, wow, that's an unbelievable defense. 2009 was a good defense with Wade Phillips. They could rush the passer with DeMarcus Ware, Jay Ralph, Anthony Spencer, and these guys. Greg Ellis may have still been around, but not as stifling as these guys. And it's, they have 20 sacks, and I think they've come from 7 or 8 different guys. So it's, as much as Micah Parsons gets all the attention, rightfully so, they can roll a bunch of guys up there to rush the passer. And that's the formula Mike McCarthy has wanted. That's what Dan Quinn is doing quite well with. And, now it's strength for strength this week. And we'll see how you guys tell me how banged up is the Eagles' offensive line.
They got some good news yesterday, Todd. Mailata came back, who's their starting left tackle. He was limited for practice. Dickerson, who's been dealing with a lot of different stuff, was limited at practice. I mean, these are good signs because Mailata was out last week. So it looks like they're getting there. I don't know if that's a guarantee they're all going to go on Sunday. But
Kelsey has the ankle.
Kelsey's been a little banged up too. But I think for the most part, they may have their entire starting O-line intact. So,
so strength versus strength, right? I mean, that as much as no one wants to watch the line play, that's where this game's going to come down to.
I agree. Let me ask you about Trayvon Diggs. And we know, man, the guy had a lot of interceptions, pick sixes. We also know he gets beat sometimes. How would you assess him as a player? Like it seems like there's a lot of flash there, but sometimes there are some underlying things where he can be susceptible.
I mean, last week against the Rams, he gave up 2 plays, and he says he gave up the 10 points. That it was a deep ball to Tutu Atwell where he was right in position to make a play. Usually he does make it because he turns into a receiver. And then the 75-yard touchdown from Cooper Kupp, he just kind of undercuts a shallow cross when he shouldn't have, and he runs away from everybody. But honestly, after that, he gave up nothing and was an unbelievable tackler, which is not something that we've seen from him really wanting to make those kind of tackles. I'm not saying he's Dion or anything where he shy away from it, but he showed a little something, I think, at the end of that game. And he's been much more, despite what I just said about those 2 plays, he's been much more sound, not biting on the double moves, been a guy that has played better maybe than whatever the PFF numbers are going to say. And he's got some picks here and 2 picks in the last 3 games. So it's funny from a Cowboys perspective, right? From the fans, when Byron Jones was here, he wouldn't give up anything, but he had 1 or 2 picks in 5 years. And everybody just complained about, well, he doesn't take the ball away. You don't pay that guy. And then Trayvon Diggs comes in and he's got 12 picks in his first however many games of his career or 14 picks. And now everybody's complaining about, well, he gives up too many plays. Well, he takes it away too. So what's more important to you? I mean, you want to have both. I think he's developing into a guy that can kind of make sure that he doesn't give up much and still take the ball away.
Hey, Todd, is this the best depth and versatility this Dallas defense has had in quite some time? Because I'm looking at names like Tristan Hill, Neville Gallimore, Kelvin Joseph, Jordan Lewis. These were prominent names In the past, they're only playing 33%, 35% of the snaps now.
Right. You look, the Cowboys defensive line, when they won the Super Bowls in the 90s,
Yeah.
they were rolling 7 or 8 guys every day, every game out there. And that's what this defensive line is doing. These guys are in a situation where you mentioned Kelvin Joseph. Here's a second-round pick from last year. He's a special teamer. He didn't even really play on defense, right? I mean, Jordan Lewis is there. His numbers down probably because he didn't play against the Redskins. He had a groin injury that popped up. But he's a guy that's on the field because they got their nickel out there, nickel or dime almost exclusively. They play a lot of 3 safety looks with Donovan Wilson, Jalen Kearse, and Malik Hooker. But again, that defensive line, you mentioned Tristan Hill and Neville Gallimore, Azoso Digizua, Dorrance Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong is a guy that if the Cowboys had re-signed Randy Gregory, he's not back. I have something going for tomorrow on ESPN.com. So Randy Gregory signed a $70 million deal. Thought the Cowboys thought they were going to have him, but he ended up going to Denver. His cap number this year is $5.6 million. The Cowboys were able to keep Armstrong, sign Dante Fowler, and draft Sam Williams in the second round. Those guys make $1.8 more million combined. Armstrong has 4 sacks, Fowler has 2 sacks, and Sam Williams is coming off his best game. So they can just roll so many guys at you that again, in the past it's DeMarcus Ware and everybody else in this pass rush. That's not the way anymore.
Todd, let me ask you, Mike McCarthy's a guy who's much maligned, I'm sure, outside of the city of Dallas, and takes a lot of heat from a lot of people.
Pretty maligned inside Dallas.
Yeah, right. All right. So that's fine. All over the place. And the whole story. He only won it because he had Aaron Rodgers, all that. I would say, looking at it from afar, probably done a pretty nice job this year, all things considered. You lose your starting quarterback and you've gone on this kind of run.
Yeah.
What's your sense of McCarthy right now?
What would we be saying about him if they were 1-4?
Yeah.
It would be, when's Sean Payton coming in? When are they going to make Dan Quinn the guy? When are they going to do So he absolutely deserves credit for what this team has done, and realizing after his first year, Mike Nolan can't be the coordinator. Let's go get Dan Quinn. There might have been some other moving parts in that decision that the Cowboys made, but Dan Quinn has been the best hire he's had. Kellen Moore developing as an offensive coordinator, and even this year without that explosive passing game, he's kind of helped mold Kellen to not a run-first guy, but understanding time and score and dictating tempo of games and sticking with the run. And the players like how he takes care of them. He trusts these GPS numbers that all these coaches talk about. He actually listens to them. And if a guy needs a day off, he'll give a guy a day off. He's not going to push it to get these soft tissue injuries that'll hurt you. So again, I go back to, if they're 1-4, he'd be getting killed. 4-1, he absolutely deserves a ton of credit for where the Cowboys are. And he's 12-5 last year, but all anybody talked about was the Niners loss in the playoffs and how that thing ended and clock management and blah blah blah. He deserves a lot of credit for where the Cowboys have gotten, and it's not, for some people might be like begrudgingly so, but honestly, I think one thing that McCarthy has realized, being the Cowboys coach, you're going to have to take a lot of unnecessary crap, so he just doesn't even care.
Right.
So the $1 million question is on those on the outside from a national perspective looking in, when is Dak coming back? Because I've said on a number of occasions on this platform, first of all, Jerry Jones should not have a radio show because he stirs up more controversy than he should within an organization. Should lock him in a club.
Radio show. No. He's fine. He can.
Yeah, he's great for your content.
He's great for you guys. Yeah.
Don't tell Todd that.
You should lock him in an office and take away all of his technology until after the season is over. But obviously, Dak is coming back. From your best guesstimate, when will that be?
I would say Chicago next week would be the best guess. McCarthy said he wants him to get a full week of practice. Okay. He's not going through today anything. He didn't do anything on Wednesday. He's just started throwing. This isn't like he's missed a week or two. He's missed a month. So, you want to be smart and practical, as McCarthy said about this. I think Chicago, and part of me wonders, look, if the Cowboys pull off this win this week and they're sitting at 5-1, they say, well, let's wait another week till Dak is not only right, but he's really right. Then you get the Lions, and then you get the bye week after that. So I think it'll be Chicago following week. It might be Detroit and then Chicago. whoever it is, one of those NFC North teams. I can't think of the schedule. But next week, I would say Dak will be back.
Okay.
Yeah. The upcoming schedule for the Cowboys, it's Detroit home.
Okay. Detroit,
week
then Chicago.
7, and then Chicago, and then you have your bye.
Last one NFC North games.
Yeah. Last one for me. I know you got to run, Todd. Yeah. You look at this game Sunday. What do you think?
It's at some point the magic has to run out, right? I mean, at some point they're going to give up more than one touchdown in a game. At some point they're going to have to. They'll be, I don't want to say exposed, but they'll be hurt with the run game, and all those things kind of, to me, shape up in Philadelphia's favor. The first 2 NFC East games the Cowboys have played, I've said the first to 20 wins, because it was Washington and New York and the Cowboys with their backup quarterback, limited offense. This one, the Cowboys are going to have to score more than 20 if they're going to win. And I just don't know, as we talked about, I just don't know if they can win a game that's going to get to its 30s. And, can they win? Sure. But I just think eventually the magic runs out a little bit, and Cooper Rush has to resort to the mean at some point. He has to throw an interception at some point.
Right.
So I think this is the Eagles game, but the Cowboys still look at this and say, 4-2, we've had our starting quarterback. We're in good shape.
Absolutely.
My final question to you, Todd, because I know you got to get out of here, is our old friend Jason Peters. He paid the Eagles the ultimate backhanded compliment. Eagles
the
fans,
yeah.
the fans base, the ultimate backhanded compliment. He starts off by saying those fans are idiots, but then he goes on to say, "Hey, look,
it was more colorful than idiots."
Right? But
something else in front of that.
There was a bleeping in it.
All right. Well, I didn't want to add the word to it,
Yeah.
but how has he fit in there? I know he had a rib injury coming out of last game. How has he fit in there at 40 years old?
Yeah, he's a leader already. He's a guy that's really taken Tyler Smith, who took over for Tyron Smith at left tackle, taking him under his wing, helped him out, been a sounding board for him, giving him technical advice, how to handle things. He's been, everything that you'd probably want from a guy that came in as late as he did, right before the season started, and more. I think you'll see him play, maybe a couple series in each half this week if the chest injury is okay, if the rib injury is okay, at left guard. And, that's a new position for him. I know he played a little bit of right guard at the end there in Philly, but, I know he's excited for this game. He tried to downplay it and say just another game. But I think one of his teammates, we were in the locker room, and I think one of his teammates called him. One of the old Eagles teammates called him when he was in the locker room, and he was on the phone with him yesterday. So he's ready for this one. I'm sure they're ready for it. And we'll see if the Eagles fans throw anything at him, because he's waiting for that too.
Oh, you had to go there, Todd. You had to go
Oh,
there.
man.
All right, Todd. Well, listen, man, we appreciate you hopping on with us for a couple minutes and
Thank you, man.
altering.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks for adjusting. I really appreciate it.
You got it, Todd. Take
Absolutely.
care. That's Todd Archer from ESPN.com. Gunnar, that line's up to 6. It was 5. It's up to 6, man.
I thought it was down to 4.5. It went up to 6.
Yeah, we're gonna have Dan Koob on at 2:30 from Sport Trade, and we'll get his take on that. But boy, that's a big number. I know the Eagles are undefeated. Vegas is saying something there. That line's telling me something here.
Anytime Vegas moves a line like that, you always say, what do they know that we don't know?
Exactly.
And was it the report yesterday that the Eagles offensive line may be healthier than we thought it would be? Does that contribute to the way the line is moving? I don't know.
Maybe. Kelsey just said he feels good about where his ankle's at, by the way. He just spoke.
Kelsey will always say that.
His arm could be falling. My arm's fine. Yeah.
He can have his arm in a cast. I'll play Sunday. I'll be playing Sunday.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But it's great. It's a great chess match. This is one of those week-long chess matches where the energy doesn't die. You've always heard me say by Friday, Saturday, I'm tired of talking about a matchup. Let's get to the game. But this is the kind of matchup where the energy builds instead of declines for me as we get closer to the game, because there's so many pluses and minuses. You were talking about Trayvon Diggs, who I think is one of the best riverboat gamblers in the game, but he is. And the optimal words are riverboat gambler. He leads the league in pass breakups with 9, but quarterbacks are completing 62% of their passes against him.
That's a big number
compared to 52% last year. Yeah. And last year, giving up 52%, he gave up close to 1,000 yards to opposing receivers last year. So obviously, him being a high second-round pick, Dallas is going to live and die with him for now until further notice. There's no question about it. Very talented player, fearless. not the best tackler, but is a good cover guy in situations. He can run with just about anybody in the league. That's how fast he is.
He is the equivalent of like Kyle Schwarber. Like he's a home run or a strikeout.
Or a strikeout, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Very much so. All right, so let's keep rolling with the Eagles talk, Derek. I want to get a little bit more into this thing, or the Cowboys in their heads a little bit. We'll get into some keys in the game. I have some blitz numbers that I think are interesting in regards to Jalen Hurts, which I want to bounce off you. You tell me if it's concern time or we're 5 in. Let's hit the brakes. So we'll do all of that. Maybe we'll read you the I'll keep it clean, the Jason Peters quotes on Eagles fans. So we'll get into that as well. We'll do all of that when we get back. I mentioned Dan Koob will be joining us a little bit later from Sport Trade. We'll get his take not only Derek on the Birds, but Phillies game 3 tomorrow. We'll see what he thinks on that one. And maybe I'll sneak in like a Flyers pick on him. I might really throw him off. See what he thinks about the Flyers tonight against the Devils. We'll do all of that when we get back. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. All right, let me tell you about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because you know how hard and how challenging, if you've been through this, it can be to find the right person with your investments. You work too hard to just blow all of that and not have it in the right hands. Jim Murray is that guy, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, small business, you're trying to set up your employee benefits. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. I personally entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. I feel like I am headed in the right direction. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751, or you could email him as well, Murray, MURRAY, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim@principal.com.